Sasakem Sahu, Sasakem Sahu, Sasakem Sahu. Me and the gods is coming through, building altars and $1 million homes. I feel the ancestors in my bones. Now I'm Neo hacking genetic codes. Now I'm Neo, the one, leave me alone. Philosopher stones, I'm dropping gems. I'm reborn from the darkness once again. So I dance on that lotus Nefertem. I be mixing the kush with herbal blends. Yo, I'm high as Heru, my wings are spread. Bitch, I'm higher than you, all disrespect. You think you flyer than me, you bumped your head. Y'all just some ducks that fight for bread, but I whip in the kitchen till it hurt. I got my hands all in the dirt. I got the blood all on my shirt. So if you word weaving, spell casting 101, I definitely wanted to, open up this particular topic of discussion by actually showing y'all a living, breathing example of what spell work actually sounds and looks like. You see what I'm saying? This is a very important topic in the occult, metaphysical, magical community. You see what I'm saying? In the occult realm, you know what I'm saying? The power of the word is definitely not a joke. And spells have been a part of, occult rituals. Um, it's been a part of the ancestral magic for millions of years. You see what I'm saying? And hopefully I can, prove that point with this particular video portion of this lecture. Of course, this is gonna come with notes and shit, so I definitely want y'all to watch this video, follow along in the notes, you know what I'm saying, get the whole gist of everything, you know what I'm saying. But I definitely wanted to do this to really break down the power of the word and the science, because magic is a goddamn science, right? I wanted to break down the science behind spells, how they work, why they work, you see what I'm saying, and what you can begin to do to really tap into the power of your own words and begin to use them to, shape and weave the reality that you want to directly experience, all right? So I do want to start this with a quote from a book called Chaos and Sorcery by Nick Hall. And that quote is, "With a subtle move, she forms her spell. The chaos sorcerer knows the power of the word comes from within, then to its destiny goes." Let me say that one more time so y'all can really, let that sink in and meditate on that. With a subtle move, she forms her spell. The chaos sorcerer knows the power of the word comes from within, then to its destiny goes. All right. This is one of the main things that we really have to understand, is that the power of the word, the power that ultimately manifests a spell, the power that ultimately decides whether or not a spell works or whether a spell is effective, it comes from within. You see what I'm saying? Um, and that's why I would like to start this particular discussion dealing with, the throat chakra. Because if we're talking about spelling, then we're talking about language. You see what I'm saying? You only spell words. So we're talking about language, and we're talking about expression, creative expression at that. So I definitely wanted to start with the throat chakra and really beginning to um, give just a little quick understanding of what the throat chakra is, because of course that would be the source of where language and speech and spelling and the art of creating spells would actually come from. You see what I'm saying? Um, the throat chakra, or the Vishuddha chakra, as it's known in the Hindu pantheon of things. You see what I'm saying? Is the fifth chakra, located at the center of the neck. The primary function of this particular chakra would be that of creative expression and communication. All right, so creative expression and communication. This chakra is also related to the element of sound, all right, which is what you're actually using to get the spell across, right? Because it is through the throat that sound vibrations are propagated through the air, all right? So, one of the first things I want to talk about with the throat chakra that you guys may not be fully aware of is the fact that the hands are an extension of the throat chakra, right? And the reason that I say this is because not only do we use our hands to talk like I'm doing right now, you see what I'm saying? Um, we use our hands to communicate through writing, You see what I'm saying? Which will be the spelling and the scripting. You see what I'm saying? Being a scribe and all that comes from the hands, actually, the written word, right? We also use them to communicate through symbolic gestures. So we can wave hello. We don't have to say any words. We can just wave hello, and someone else across from us would understand what that means. We can put our thumb up. You see what I'm saying? And that's understood to be another, you know what I'm saying, another, you know what I'm saying, form of communication. We're communicating a different idea. Whereas when we're doing this, we're trying to, you know, greet somebody. When we're doing this, we're saying like good job or that's okay, or you know what I'm saying, I see you, good work, whatever the fuck. Or, you know what I'm saying, you could throw up your middle finger and be like, fuck you, nigga. So of course with this, we have to understand that because the hands are such an important part of the communication process, the hands are actually an extension of the throat chakra. A lot of our creative expression in terms of you know, artistic endeavors, whether they be poetry or music or different forms of art and all of that shit, comes from the hands. You know what I'm saying? The hands are a massive creative force. A lot of this shit that we're using right now, laptops and phones and shit, were put together with hands. You see what I'm saying? So we definitely want to understand that the hands are an extension of the throat chakra, and that these are tools that we use to communicate and express different ideas. All right. So really begin to see yourself as the instrument through which, you see what I'm saying, the words of God are made manifest. All right. That's going to be the first step in understanding, you know what I'm saying, the true nature of, you know what I'm saying, the spell work. All right. So, the most common Sanskrit name for the throat chakra, like we said, is Vishuddha, which in Sanskrit means pure or purification. That's going to end up coming back around in a little bit. So just keep that in your mind that Vishuddha means pure or purification. All right. All right. So, magic, which was known to the Kemetic ancestors as Heka. Now, that word Heka is very important in understanding what magic is all about. All right. They define that word Heka as the primordial creative impulse. If we're to break that word down and actually begin to analyze, you know what I'm saying, what this word actually means in Medu Neter, which is the hieroglyphic language of our ancestors on that level. He is the sound of spirit and life, and Ka would be analogous to the astral body on that level, which is the force animating the body as we know it. You see what I'm saying? So He Ka, in its most literal translation, is literally the breath of life, which is why I'm pointing to the throat chakra on this level, because it is through the throat that breath enters into the body and breath exits the body. You see what I'm saying? The breath of life is the spoken word. The breath of life is the word. You see what I'm saying? So while this primordial creative power originates all principles, while Heka, this creative impulse, is what leads to the creation of anything. You see what I'm saying? It is not until these principles are spoken, right? It is not until these principles are spoken that they can take on a manifested form, right? So the breath of life is what gives life to all the infinite number of realities that can exist. But until we speak them into existence, they do not take on a manifested form. You see what I'm saying? Which is exactly why in the book of Genesis, God was there in the darkness. It was made very clear that there was a void and a darkness upon the earth, which means that the earth already existed in darkness. Fuck that whole creation story. Fuck them whole 7 days of creation. The earth already existed in darkness, right? But it wasn't until God said, let there be light, and then there was, that the creation process could actually start, to where the earth could actually begin to physically manifest. It existed as a potential, as the thought, as the seed of a thought. But it wasn't until that light was spoken into existence that that thought seed could actually begin to germinate and grow and develop into the fully manifested earth that we are on today. You see what I'm saying? So I just want to use that as an example to explain the point that I'm getting at right now. All right. So Because the throat chakra is intimately linked to creativity, it is safe to say that all creative acts are a direct manifestation of this chakra. Like I said, with the hands being an extension of the throat chakra, a lot of the things that we do create, we create with our hands. We create with our words. You see what I'm saying? We create with our breath. You see what I'm saying? So this is why the throat chakra plays such an important role in understanding what spell work is all about. You have to start at the throat. You see what I'm saying? This is how we actually communicate our thoughts and ideas, not only to, you know what I'm saying, the world around us, but how we communicate to the different levels of existence, how we communicate with ourselves internally. This is where all of that actually happens at the throat chakra, all right? So please don't think of the throat chakra as like the physical thing. Think of it as this energetic nexus where all things, all forms of communication happen, verbal and nonverbal. So body language is an expression of the throat chakra. You see what I'm saying? Symbolic gestures are an expression of the throat chakra. Spoken and written word are expressions of the throat chakra. This is what we have to understand. All spells, damn near all magic actually, as because like we said, magic in the Kemetic language is called Heka. And Heka, to our Kemetic ancestors, is the creative impulse. It's the force that animates anything. You see what I'm saying? So understand that this is what we're dealing with, and this is why all of this shit starts at the throat. So if your throat chakra is blocked, if your throat chakra is fucked up, you're not gonna be able to accurately and effectively create spells. You see what I'm saying? They're not gonna work. They're not gonna happen the way you want them to. So I definitely want to stress this point of really understanding what your throat chakra is all about, what you deem as communication, what's your best way of communication, because that's ultimately going to determine the type of spells that you want to work with. You see what I'm saying? Now, mind you, the spell doesn't have to be spoken and written word, but it's most commonly spoken and written word, which is why it's called spell. You see what I'm saying? We spell words. You see what I'm saying? We write them down, we speak them after that. So we definitely want to do that, but understand that spells aren't just the spoken and written word. It's also all of the other forms of communication that go into it as well. So the body language that you have when you create a spell, you see what I'm saying? Does your body language match a confident magician? You see what I'm saying? Does your body language say, yes, I believe this spell is working, or does it say, I don't know if this is gonna happen? Because that's gonna play into the energy of the spell as well, and we're gonna break down how all of that kind of happens too. All right. So, like I said, the throat chakra is the most essential part of the spell creating process. It is through this energy vortex that we can communicate with the various levels of existence, express that which is within our heart, right? And project our ideas and intentions into reality. I think that's probably the most important part of what the throat chakra does. It allows us to project. Just like how you have to project your voice, you got to speak up, you got to talk with some authority in order for people to hear you. You see what I'm saying? It's no different. In order for us to be able to project our ideas and intentions into reality, we'd have to speak them. You see what I'm saying? We'd have to put a little bass in our voice and actually communicate them into the medium of, you know what I'm saying, reality. All right. So, included in the notes, right, it is a solfeggio frequency that you can use to begin to heal and activate the throat chakra, so that way when you do begin to work on spells and when you do begin to work toward creating your own spells and really dealing with that side of the magic, you know what I'm saying, really getting practical with it and applying it, you see what I'm saying, you're coming at it from the highest standpoint. I would say that for, you know what I'm saying, you guys that are just not starting out on making your own spells, I would listen to, you know what I'm saying, some type of throat chakra healing meditation music or something along those lines before every spell you do, so that way you can put yourself in that creative zone, you can get yourself in the right space of energy, so that way you can do this. All right. So that's the first aspect of spell creation that I want to talk about, the throat chakra and its importance in the creation of a spell. The next topic of discussion that I want to have with you guys in terms of this spell working is the connection between the nomo and the word. All right. So before we can discuss the concepts behind creating your own spell, we must first discuss the power of the word. To do this is going to require an analysis of the cosmology of the Dogon tribe of Mali. All right. The Dogon tribe is a very advanced, you see what I'm saying? Very advanced group of people that have a very advanced set of knowledge. You see what I'm saying? They were actually a priesthood that came out of the Nile Valley. You see what I'm saying? They were actually a part of what we now call Kemet or ancient Egypt. They were a part of that. They were actually sent to the other side of Africa to preserve the most ancient secrets of that Kemetic mythology. You see what I'm saying? And they've done just that because the Nomos that we're going to talk about right now, the gods of the Dogon tribe, would actually be directly analogous to the Ogdode of the Kemetic mythology, which would be the 8 frog and snake-headed deities, these primordial beings of darkness that existed before the creation of anything really. These would be the same entities, but of course, when we try to look toward getting information on the Ogdo, a lot of the information is lost. A lot of the information is fractured. It's split up. You know what I'm saying? You only get bits and pieces of it here and there. But when we go and we supplement that knowledge that we do get about the Ogdo with the knowledge of the Nomos, that's when we get to see a complete picture. All right. So I'm gonna use them and their knowledge, the Dogon tribe, and their knowledge of the Nomos and the Nomos' knowledge of the word, right? To really break down more of the science. You see what I'm saying? The physics behind why spells work. You see what I'm saying? So that way you niggas can actually begin to make spells with real understanding. You see what I'm saying? Because of course the ego, when it doesn't fully understand something, it's going to block it from actually sinking into the subconscious mind. So once you have all the scientific information that satisfies your ego, boom, this shit can really start moving and shaking. All right. So in the Dogon cosmology, the term word, right? Or the word, right? God was the word and the word was God. All of that is a direct ripoff from the Nomos and the Dogon tribe and their knowledge and their information. Please understand that the book of Genesis is talking about how the Nomos created the created this planet and this solar system and all that shit, how they created the entire universe really, right? So in the Dogon cosmology, the term word has a double meaning. On one hand, it refers to literal speech and language, while on the other hand, it has a figurative meaning of the acquisition of a skill or the knowledge of a concept, which is usually what you're trying to get to when you make a spell anyways. You're trying to acquire some type of power, you're trying to acquire some type of energy, you're trying to acquire some type of knowledge on some type of a subject, you're trying to make a certain thing happen, or you're trying to gain the skills to make a certain thing happen, is usually what we do when we are making spells. So understand that the connection between speech and language, and then the acquisition of skills and knowledge, particularly the skills and knowledge that help civilize humanity. You see what I'm saying? Those are intimately connected with one another in the Dogon cosmology. All right. So, for example, the first word in the Dogon cosmology is related to the concept of clothing, while the second word is the mastery over the skill of weaving. The concept of the word also directly encompasses the notion of thoughts as well. You see what I'm saying? Because you can talk to yourself in your head, and that's an aspect of the throat chakra as well, right? And truth be told, you have to think before you speak. You see what I'm saying? Just like how God had to come up with a word for the force of nature that he, she, it wanted to call forward when it wanted to create light. It had to think up the concept first. It's like, all right, everything's dark. I want something that's opposite of darkness. I want to create something that's opposite of darkness. What am I going to call that? Light. And then you speak that word and then it manifests. You see what I'm saying? So understand that the concept of the word and the concept of speech is also directly connected to your thoughts. because you must think before you speak. All right. That is also a very important part of the spell creating process. Really thinking about the words you're using and knowing what the words you're using actually mean before you actually write the spell. So that way you know where it is that your energy is being directed. All right. So this is further illustrated in the mythos when the vapor from the breath of the nomos speaking is said to absorb into the fabric of reality as it is being woven. All right. So as the nomos speak, their breath and the vapor from their breath is being woven directly into the fabric of reality, which means that their words directly affect what is manifested around them and outside of them. All right. Mind you, they exist in a state of non-manifestation, right? They're pretty much, and that's why they're considered these aquatic, fish-like reptilian beings, these amphibious beings, because they exist within the waters of chaos. All right, that primordial, infinite field of potential. All right, so understand that when they speak, their vapor, their breath fuses into the fabric of reality and begins to shape what is being created. The same way in the Christian Bible, you see what I'm saying? Elohim speaks light and then light is created. You see what I'm saying? All right. In other parts of the mythos, the Nomo are said to weave reality by using their teeth as the weaving loom. All right. So there's this strong connection being created between the concept of weaving and the concept of speech. All right. So there's some interesting little bridgeway between what we consider, you know what I'm saying, weaving and the word. So that's why this is called weaving words. You see what I'm saying? This means that their words are directly shaping the formation of the universe from the microcosm to the macrocosm. All right. The concept of the word as it is presented by the Dogon is heavily connected to the modern science of string theory. All right. Strings, weaving, word. This is about to get jiggy. All right. So, what the Dogons define as the word, what the Dogons define as the nomos and their powers of speech and creativity on that level is directly analogous to the modern concepts of string theory. All right. In this branch of quantum mechanics, which is what string theory is, quantum mechanics, it's quantum theory, all right? This is a quantum science, right? Dealing with the microcosmic aspect of things, moving into the macrocosmic aspect of things, right? The most fundamental unit of matter or energy are one-dimensional loops or coils. What he says is that everything is just vibrating strings. Everything is just vibrating loops and coils of energy. All right, they're just vibrating filaments. Okay, keep that in mind. Just like the strings on a violin or a guitar, quantum strings have an infinite number of different vibrational patterns called resonances. All right, in the same manner that different resonances allow us to play different musical notes, different resonances in these quantum strings creates a variety of particles and force fields. All right, so the electron is just a particular resonance of these quantum strings that creates that force. Gravity is just a particular resonance that creates that force field. Electricity is just a particular resonance that creates that particular force. All right. This is going to become highly important as we move forward. All right. Understanding how these resonances work toward creating each specific musical note, or work toward creating each specific fundamental particle and fundamental force field that shapes the reality we exist in. All right. The next aspect of this topic that we must grasp to truly understand the power of the word is realizing that the word, whether spoken or written, is a symbolic euphemism for sound or sonic energy. So in the Bible, when they talk about God was the Word and the Word was God, they're really talking about the fact that God was some form of a sound, some form of sonic energy. All right. But what is sound? You see what I'm saying? Well, sound is defined by physics as a wave of vibration traveling through a medium such as air or water. Of course, it does not have to be air or water. There are other mediums that sound can travel through. All right. But in order to understand why there are other mediums that sound can travel through, we first have to break past this concept that sound is just the shit that we can hear. That is not what sound is. At its most fundamental level, sound is just vibration. There are sounds that, or there are vibrations that are too high pitched for us, our human ears to hear, but dogs can hear it. You see what I'm saying? There are vibrations that are too low pitch for us to hear, but yet niggas like elephants could pick up on it. You see what I'm saying? So just because you can't necessarily hear that specific range of vibration does not mean that it's not a sound. And because everything in string theory is composed of these vibrating strings, these vibrating filaments of energy, that means that everything is giving off its own sound, right? That's why it's called a universe. It's the one song. It's a universe. Verses are in songs. It's a one song. It's one cohesive sound. You see what I'm saying? Composed of many different notes, many different instruments. It's a chorus of things. It's a choir of things. You see what I'm saying? Coming together. It's a symphony of things coming together to create the multitude of infinite expressions that we see. All right. This is another important aspect of understanding spells. You see what I'm saying? Understanding the necessity to really choose your words carefully because each word represents a specific vibratory rate. It represents a specific note. And when you can weave these words together in such a way, you create beautiful music. All right. You create a sound that resonates and then allows you to really change the nature of the reality around you. All right. So, at its most fundamental level, sound is just vibration. Sound is just a vibration. So, because everything is vibrating, everything is giving off a sound, regardless of whether you can hear it or not. All right. All right. Because everything is composed of quantum strings vibrating at a specific resonance point, all things in nature have their own word associated with them. All right. In this sense, the word is just a grouping of different vibrations that, when harmonized with one another, creates a resonance field that invokes, invokes means calls into activation within, or evokes, calls into the activation outside of you, right? A specific object, idea, or energy. Let me say that part to you again. Because everything is composed of quantum strings vibrating at specific resonance points. Everything has its own particular note that it is playing. Right? All things in nature have their own word because the word is sound and sound is just vibration. All right? So everything has its own particular word associated with it. We call a chair because we want to represent a specific concept or idea or an object on that level.
I
Yeah.
was looking to see if people were live.
Nah,
Sorry.
it's not. I don't gotta laugh.
Oh,
So yeah, it's just these different groupings of vibrations that create these specific or call forth, invoke, evoke. You see what I'm saying? Either they activate it within you or they call it forth outside of you. You see what I'm saying? A specific object, idea, or energy. So when we say iPhone, the image of an iPhone comes into our head because we understand that those specific groupings of sounds together denotes a specific object. You see what I'm saying? When we say rain, that idea comes directly into our head. It paints itself into our imagination because we understand that those particular symbols together, RAIN, those particular symbols together represent an idea or an energy related to water falling from the sky. You see what I'm saying? So understand that the quantum realm is no different. When you put together certain vibrations of energy, it creates certain particles and force fields. So if I want to create electrons, I would have to call forth certain specific frequencies, join them together in order to manifest that force. You see what I'm saying? The same way, if I want to tell you about an iPhone, I would have to use the word iPhone. And then that calls for the certain idea in your head. Oh, a cell phone, the one with the Apple on it. You see what I'm saying? They usually white. You know what I'm saying? They got the one little button on the front. They got Siri and all that shit. All of that comes to your mind the minute I say iPhone. But all of that vast knowledge and information that represents an iPhone is collapsed into this one word. You see what I'm saying? This is why the weaving process of spell creation is so important to understand. This is why it's not just about writing a bunch of fancy shit on a page. You see what I'm saying? It's really about understanding the quantum mechanical principles underneath the creation of a language, underneath the creation of reality that's going to really get you into the full mastery of spell working. All right. So, let's see here. All right. So let me keep going. All right. So, therefore, the Dogon tribe and many other ancient cultures describe the creation of the universe through the spoken word. In the Kemetic mythology, they talk about Ptah rising out of the primordial waters and speaking a word from his heart, that word being Hu or He. You see what I'm saying? The breath of life. And that's what actually manifests Ra. You see what I'm saying? So understand that it's not just the Christian mythos that gives credit to the spoken word as being the primary step in the creation of the universe. You see what I'm saying? The Dogon say it, the Kemetic ancestors say it. You see what I'm saying? It's all about this particular spoken word energy. All right. So, therefore, the Dogon tribe and many other ancient cultures describe the creation of the universe through the spoken word because of all the aforementioned reasons. By using the vibration of their thoughts and vocal cords, right? By using the vibration of their thoughts as one form of the word and their vocal cords as another form of the word, the Nomo were able to create pressure waves, which is really what sound is. It's just a pressure wave, right? They were able to create pressure waves in the waters of chaos. The waters of chaos would be, in this particular example, the underlying quantum string field that manifests everything, right? These waves then create different resonances based on their frequency. All right. So when you have a low frequency wave, you might be dealing with infrared or microwave. When you have a high frequency wave, you might be dealing with X-ray or gamma rays. You see what I'm saying? The frequency of the wave changes what it manifests as. It changes the resonance point and thus changes what actually is born out of those waves. You see what I'm saying? So using the vibration of their thoughts and their vocal cords, the Noma were able to create pressure waves in the waters of chaos, the underlying quantum string field. These waves then create different resonances based on their frequency, right? Different frequencies resonate different ways. You see what I'm saying? Some frequencies are going to cancel each other out. You see what I'm saying? Because the peaks and the troughs of the waves are opposite to one another. So they'll actually end up canceling each other out. Some waves, their peaks and their troughs actually go together in such a way that they amplify one another. You see what I'm saying? This is why certain notes kind of go together better than certain other notes. You see what I'm saying? This is where the study of harmonics comes in, understanding how sound operates at its various levels. So that's going to be an important part of understanding how to really weave spells if you really want to do this shit. Once again, magic is not just some divine feminine fuck off. It's not just some abstract concept. It is a science. It is a real tangible thing that you can deal with. You see what I'm saying? Science is just spirituality explained. You see what I'm saying? That's all it is. That is all it is. So once we understand the necessity to get into the study of string theory, get into the study of quantum mechanics, to get into the study of harmonics, that's when we will really be able to get back into the power that our ancestors spoke so highly about. You see what I'm saying? Let's make it very clear. Our ancestors did not start writing down all of this different information until they realized that they were about to forget all of it and they were about to go to sleep. You see what I'm saying? So they made sure to leave traces and clues for us in their words, in their languages. You see what I'm saying? They left it to us so that way the knowledge would resonate all the way into the future. So that way us right now could come back and resurrect that knowledge and speak their words again, to speak their power back into existence. All right, within ourselves. That's where the invoking comes in and the evoking comes in, calling it forth within ourselves and then projecting it outward into the reality around us. All right. So I definitely want to keep that in your minds as well. All right. So when specific frequencies are played together in harmony, they cause a specific principle to be called forth from the field of infinite potential into the field of manifestation. Through this process, their words and thoughts are birthed into existence as physical entities. This is how they did it. They understood that when they spoke, their vocal cords, which are a bunch of biochemical strings, could affect the quantum field in such a way that it would bring life to a thought or an idea that they had. It's no different than that part in Genesis where God has to breathe life into Adam in order for him to rise up. It's the breath of life. That's what animates anything. It's the breath. All right. We can talk about the concept of Neter Neteru, right, from the ancient Kemetic mythology, where they represent God or the idea of the absolute God. You see what I'm saying? The all encompassing God as a flag. Now, why would they do that? Here's why. Boom. The central staff would be the fixed aspect of reality. That would be the masculine. All right. The fabric that was attached to said central staff would be the volatile aspect, the aspect that actually gets put into motion. That would be the feminine side of it, right? The only way that we could actually understand the symbols that are on the flag is if there's breath and wind moving the flag. You see what I'm saying? So understand that it is the breath of life, the wind, the word that actually animates the fabric of the universe into creation. Without the breath, everything is pure potential. Nothing is created. Nothing is manifested. It's all just non-manifest. It's all just darkness. It's all just whatever the fuck. Incomprehensible. It's infinitely potential. But once that breath, that vibration moves through the water, these waves start to get created. And these waves, they crash and they interfere with one another. And these interference patterns, another part of harmonics that you're going to need to look into, these interference patterns is actually what manifests the different forces and particles that make up not only the physical reality around us, but our body as well. This is why they tell you be mindful of your words, watch what you say. You got to know when to talk and when to shut the fuck up, because this right here is the energy that our ancestors understood. If you don't know how to properly control your words, you'll end up speaking things into your life that you don't want to experience. And especially with the language like English, that is a double language. Every word has a double meaning, swear to God. That's why in English it's very easy to be shady. You can say one thing on the surface but mean something totally different on the real level. Sarcasm, figurative language, all of this shit is fundamental to understanding English. It's also what makes English a very hard language to cast spells in, because what you think a word means and what a word actually means could be completely different from one another. Add on top of the fact that there are multiple words that sound exactly the same but mean completely different things. There. You have there as in possession, there as in they are, and there as in a location. Three words that sound exactly the same but mean completely different things. This is why weaving words in English is a very tough thing to do. And this is why understanding language arts is very important to casting spells. You can't understand how to do this shit if you're not willing to really study all of the aspects behind the art. There's a science behind the art that you have to understand. So, weaving spells, creating spells is not just writing a bunch of fancy shit on a piece of paper. You have to understand the subtleties of language. You have to understand the subtleties of quantum mechanics. You have to understand the subtleties of harmonics. You have to understand the subtleties of the fucking throat chakra. You also have to understand the biochemical aspect of what's going on in terms of your vocal cords and how they vibrate and how that intonation plays into it, how the speaking aspect of it plays into it. Because if you don't speak the spell with the authority of God, trust me, you're not making anything happen. That's for fucking sure. So all of these things become highly important when we're dealing with the creation of a spell. All right. So the next aspect that I want to touch on, the next major topic of discussion, is going to be word weaving. This is where we actually begin to get into the nitty gritty of like making spells. All right. So for this part, I want to begin with yet another quote from Chaos and Sorcery by Nicholas Hall, or Nick Hall, or N Hall, whatever the fuck. You'll find it once you type in Chaos and Sorcery. All right. The term word weaving illustrates the process by which curses and spells are formulated. The spoken words are then directed toward a predetermined person, or as is often the case with spells, spoken over a material base to empower it, and then the spell is activated. Although curses and spells utilize the power of the spoken word, there is a fundamental traditional difference between the two. Spells, contrary to curses, are recited over or written to be contained within a variety of material bases. Simplification, translation, you speak spells on objects. You see what I'm saying? You capture the energy of a spell within an object. This right here, this object right here, contains a very powerful, potent spell that I created myself. I'm not going to tell it to you because, of course, why would I? But this is what it all represents. I spoke the spell into the object, and now the quantum strings that created this object, the resonance field that created this object, are now directly imbued with that energy. The same way that the breath of the nomos weaves itself into the fabric of reality. Same thing, no different. All right. So when you're creating a spell, you might want to speak over a candle. You see what I'm saying? You might want to speak over a particular symbol that represents what it is that you want to manifest. You might want to speak over a crystal. You see what I'm saying? You might just want to speak into the general environment of where you are. Maybe it's a spell to remove a certain level of energy from your house. You see what I'm saying? You'd have to speak into the house, into the environment, in order for that to make the spell manifest. Whereas with a curse, it's more so just thinking about the person and then speaking the words. You see what I'm saying? You don't necessarily need to contain a curse within a material object. You can, because of course there are cursed objects, and really the difference between a spell and a curse isn't that much, because you can make malicious spells. You see what I'm saying? You can make spells that are curses and contain them within objects and then hand them to the people that you want to curse. You see what I'm saying? We've seen that with movies like Drag Me to Hell and shit like that. So you can definitely do that. But spells in particular have to be spoken over a material base. The same way that the nomos have to speak into the fabric of reality. These quantum strings, these quantum filaments and particles, that would be the material base that they spoke over in order to embed their spells, embed their words into the creation of the universe. All right. So let's continue with this quote here. So spells, contrary to curses, are recited over or written to be contained within a variety of material bases. Whether microcosmic, macrocosmic, doesn't matter. You need a material base to contain the spell. All right. The sorcerer does not necessarily call upon an entity to empower the spell. That would be, you know what I'm saying, the aspect of a curse. You see what I'm saying? Usually, curses you're calling on some other entity outside of you or within you, so to speak, to help you carry out the curse. Whereas with the spell, you just speak it into the object, you know what I'm saying, with authority, with conviction, with power, with the knowing in your heart that the spell is going to work, right? And then that object and the resonance field that creates that object is imbued with the energy of the spell, all right? So the sorcerer does not necessarily call upon an entity to empower the spell. The sorcerer, in casting a spell, is using verbal power to enable the required magical energy to be raised, and in doing so, uses a material base to contain and direct the spell towards the chosen target without the intervention of the gods. This is why magicians have to have wands, because it's usually the wand that is the material base that's used to contain and then direct the energy. Just like in Harry Potter, Expelliarmus. You point that shit, you say the words, and then the energy shoots out of the wand and creates an effect in the material reality around you. Expecto Patronum! You need the wand. You see what I'm saying? Now, mind you, this also goes into the fact that in Harry Potter, I do believe they made a big deal about him having like a phoenix wand or some shit like that. You see what I'm saying? So obviously, you know what I'm saying, the material base that you speak the energy into does affect how effectively, you see what I'm saying, the spell can be contained and directed. A lot of the time, it's usually earth-based objects like wood or metals or crystals or things like that that you use to really contain the energy. You see what I'm saying? You definitely want to make sure that the resonance field of the object that you're trying to contain and direct the spell with is, you know what I'm saying, in harmony with what the spell is actually trying to do. So if you want to do an abundance ritual, you'd want to speak that over a dollar bill. You see what I'm saying? Because that's what we associate with abundance down here. Of course, it's not the only form of abundance, but it is the most physical form of abundance that we can point to. You see what I'm saying? So if you want to do an abundance spell, you want to speak it over a special, you know what I'm saying, dollar that you create. You see what I'm saying? You wanted to speak it over that because that would resonate with the energy that you're already trying to call forward. You wouldn't want to speak an abundance spell over your bills because those two things don't kind of line up that come with that. You see what I'm saying? There's a whole bunch of thought forms and entities that you associate with that dollar bill. So you definitely make sure that the resonance field of energy around the material base that you use matches with the resonance field that you're trying to create with the spell. It's going to be highly important. Highly, highly important. All right. So that was the quote. You see what I'm saying? I'll read it one more all the way through, no interruptions. All right. The term word weaving illustrates the process by which curses and spells are formulated. The spoken words are then directed towards a predetermined person, or, as is often the case with spells, spoken over a material base to empower it, and then the spell is activated. Although curses and spells utilize the power of the spoken word, there is a fundamental traditional difference between the two. Spells, contrary to curses, are recited over or written to be contained within a variety of material bases. The sorcerer does not necessarily call upon an entity to empower the spell, which is why the power of the word comes from within. All right. Sorry, just had to say that. The sorcerer, in casting a spell, is using verbal power to enable the required magical energy to be raised, and in so doing, uses a material based tame and direct the spell towards the chosen target without the intervention of the gods. All right. So that is a highly important part to understand when we're dealing with this particular aspect of magic, that is spelling. You see what I'm saying? And creating these spells and casting these spells. You see what I'm saying? I also want to make a quick little point before we even continue about the fact that Hollywood, Holywood, wand. Holy wood is a wand. You have to spell a script and then cast the roles in the script before you make a movie. So understand that every movie that Hollywood puts out is a goddamn ritual. It's a spell. It's a visual spell, but of course, it's still all a part of that throat chakra energy because it's a creative mode of expression. You see what I'm saying? So you have to script the spell and then cast the spell in order for it to become manifest, in order for others to act out the spell. That's what Hollywood is. Hollywood is a bunch of magicians fucking with your mind, fucking with your subconscious. And because of the process of suspended disbelief, which I talked about in my Black Panther and the Science of Neurocinematics, you see what I'm saying? Because of the science of suspended disbelief, your ego completely shuts down so that way you can enjoy the creative expression that's going on in front of you, which means that all of the spells that they write into these movies directly sink into your subconscious mind and shape the way you view reality, bar none. There is no argument about that. You can go research neurocinematics if you want to, and you can go deal with all them NYU ass papers from niggas with PhDs and shit. You see what I'm saying? You can decode those big fancy words. Or you can just fuck with a nigga telling you, ayo, Hollywood, Holywood, it's a wand. The directing and casting energy. You see what I'm saying? That's what the whole thing's for. So I definitely want to bring that up as a part of understanding the different levels with which you can actually create spells. You see what I'm saying? It's not just the spoken word, it can also be through visual mediums. You see what I'm saying? Keep that in mind. All right. So it is through our words that we give direction to the threads or strings of energy all around us so that we can create the reality we wish to experience. This is the essence of spell creation. It is through our words that we give direction. This is why you have to speak with authority when you're creating spells. You have to speak with the authority of God. God was not begging light to come into existence in the book of Genesis. That motherfucker commanded light to show itself after it created the resonance field of thought that it needed in order to produce the word that would represent the concept or idea that it wanted to bring into manifestation. You have to speak with authority. This is why I've been talking so much about this golden bully concept, because Taurus, the astrological sign Taurus, is related to the throat chakra. And you see what I'm saying? So you have to speak with the authority of God in order for a spell to work. You have to speak a spell knowing that it's going to manifest. You can't just be like, oh, yeah, I want money. My life should be sweet like honey. Uh, Amen. No, no, that's not gonna do it. That's not gonna work. All right. It is through our words that we give direction to the threads and strings of energy all around us so that we can create the reality that we want to experience. You have to speak it into existence. That automatically implies that you have to speak the way God speaks. God does not beg, God does not ask, God does not have fear in her voice, God does not have shame in her voice, God does not have guilt, not vulnerability, I shouldn't say that, but not the bad parts of vulnerability where it's like a weakness. You see what I'm saying? There is no weakness in God's voice. There is no uncertainty in God's voice. She speaks with authority and she commands things to happen. Maybe you're too scared to command things to happen because you've been told X, Y, and Z, and you don't have that type of power and you can't talk to the universe like that. You gotta have respect. Nigga, I thought you were God. Nigga, I thought all of you were gods having a human experience. So why can't you talk to the universe like you're God while you're having this human experience? All right. So like I said, it is through our words that we give direction to the threads and strings of quantum energy all around us so that way we can create the reality that we wish to experience. This is the essence of spell creation. While the principles that we want to call forth already exist as seeds of potential. They exist in the waters of chaos as potential. There was a void and a darkness upon the earth. It already existed in a state of potential, right? Our words are how we bring that potential energy into a state of kinetic motion, which then collapses the quantum waves into particles that we can interact with directly. This is how it's done. This is why a spell works. Our words turn that potential into kinetic motion. Understand, the Egyptians represented their concept of the absolute God, the one God, with the idea of the flag, which means that in order for the flag to really get to waving, there has to be the wind. Otherwise, the flag is in a state of potential. It's not moving, it's not doing anything, it's just laying down. Once that wind moves, once that word is spoken, then the flag begins to wave, and now you see the creation and the animation of the fabric of the universe. Understand that. All right. So our words are how we bring that potential energy into a state of kinetic motion, which then collapses these quantum strings, these quantum waves into particles. They're like this, and then they do this. You should probably get into the Schrodinger cat experiment. You should look into that. The double slit experiment. You should look into that. Really begin to understand the quantum mechanics of the universe so that way you can begin to understand how it is that reality actually forms. Because here's one of the illest things that I've learned during my studies of quantum physics. All of this shit is quantum waves until you observe it. It's all a state of pure potential until you look at it, and then it collapses into a finite state. Just like in a video game. When you drive, like GTA, if you drive fast enough, you see what I'm saying, on a thing, you'll get to a point where you're moving faster than the game is processing. You'll begin to see it processing right in front of you, right? Understand that as you move through the game, it's generating those new parts of the game. So that means that everything you're not looking at is pure potential until you look at it again. And then you begin to see people and buildings and air and the sky and all that shit. Once you close your eyes, it all disappears. It all becomes quantum waves again. Darkness, pure potential, you see nothing. But once you open your eyes, boop, here we go. Back to the universe, back to matter. This is an important part of understanding it. This is one of the fundamental understandings of quantum physics that modern science has already accepted as fact. This is a part of modern science that these niggas got from your ancestors. Your ancestors said this shit first. They said that out of the waters of chaos came Atum. The atom, nigga? Oh, you mean God created Adam in the Garden of Eden and then after speaking the word from darkness to create light? Your ancestors knew about it first. They said it first. They didn't put it in technical jargon because, of course, your ancestors were a little bit more creative than that. You see what I'm saying? They like to make their science a little bit more artistic, like to make it a little more beautiful, so that way everyone could relate to it. All right? But understand that they knew it first, and they spoke it in a symbolic way so that way the knowledge would directly interact with their subconscious mind, because as we're going to get into, the subconscious mind speaks in the language of symbols. That's why the earliest forms of language are always pictographical. They're always picture-based, symbolic languages. All of the hieroglyphs are pictures. Why? Because they were directly communicating with their subconscious mind with it. Whereas modern languages still rely on pictographical things. You see what I'm saying? Every letter is a symbol. You see what I'm saying? It's not the same because we're not communicating directly with pictures. You see what I'm saying? We're getting back to it with the science of emojis and shit, which is something that we're definitely going to have to talk about coming up very soon when we do the metaphysics of the hood with my nigga Zolani. You see what I'm saying? Definitely going to be doing that. Really breaking down how the magic still exists. We just forgot that it's magic. But understand that symbols are how we communicate directly with the subconscious mind. All right. So, uh, so thus writing and speaking are how we turn abstract thoughts into tangible things. The iPhone was an abstract thought at one point. Someone had to write up the blueprints for this shit in order to make it a tangible thing. You see what I'm saying? So speaking and writing are how we turn abstract thoughts and concepts into tangible things that we can directly experience and interact with. All right. In its most fundamental state, the creation of a spell is the weaving together. The creation of a spell is the weaving together of carefully chosen words and imagery to explain or clearly express, I should say, a magical intention. Carefully chosen words and imagery used to clearly express a magical intention. All right. The more specific the wording or imagery is behind the spell, the clearer the intention becomes, which amplifies the effectiveness of the spell you cast. All right. So the the more clear of an image that your spell can create within your imagination, the greater and clearer of a picture that it can paint in your mind of what it is that you want to manifest, the more effective the spell becomes. All right. I want to keep that in mind as we go forward. Because the effectiveness of the spell is based on the specificity of the wording, it is vital to understand the science behind etymology. Etymology is how you begin to trace the origins of a word back through all of the languages that that word existed in to actually get to the root source of what the word means. All right. So it is vital to understand the science behind etymology and the origins of words and their meaning. This is so that you, as the spell caster, are 100% sure that the words you're using are in direct alignment with what you wish to manifest. When you're sure that the words that you're speaking are aligned with what you want to manifest, it's easier for you to speak them with a level of confidence, with a level of authority, with a level of power that is going to actually make it happen. That's going to actually call it forth into existence. All right. Often spells backfire or don't work in the way that we want them to, simply because the wording didn't match the image of intention in our head. This is where you really have to understand the necessity to paint pictures with your words. That's what the ancestors were doing with Medu Neter. That's what the ancestors were doing with, the Nahuatl language of the Mayans. You see what I'm saying? They use pictures to paint a picture in your mind of what they were speaking about.
Subconscious mind.
In your subconscious mind, I should say. Definitely, because
That's what it talks to.
that's what all of these languages are mainly talking to your subconscious mind. It's a conscious way of talking to your subconscious mind. All right. So you really have to understand the the importance of being able to really paint clear pictures in your conscious and subconscious mind of what it is that you want to manifest. All right. So this is why really understanding the, I guess you could say, subconscious vibration behind a particular word through the science of etymology, you see what I'm saying, becomes very important. You really want to understand that. So that way, when you're saying these words, you're confident that the words you're using directly align with what you want to manifest and what you're trying to call forth from the darkness, from this field of quantum strings, from this waters of chaos, from this pure potentiality. All right. If a spell doesn't work or it backfires on you, it's probably because you didn't pick the right words that match with the image of the intention that was in your mind. Once again, you have to see it here before you speak it out of here. All right. You got to be able to think before you talk. So really put some thought behind the spells that you're creating
And use words that you know the meaning to.
and use words that you know the meaning to so that way you can actually create effective spells. All right. It is also important note the significance of rhyming in the process of spell creation. Rhyming gives your words a rhythmic tone. And because the vocal cords are one of the primary instruments, vocal cords, they're strings, which means you can play them. Singing is just being able to play your vocal cords really well. That's all that is. You see what I'm saying? Rhyming gives your words a rhythmic tone, and because the vocal cords are one of the primary instruments of creation, rhythm is key to producing an effective spell. Rhyming produces rhythm. A coherent rhythm produces a strong resonance field, and it is this resonance field that allows for the manifestation of the desired intention. What makes you like a song? It's usually the rhythm of it. You see what I'm saying? You feel that shit and it makes you want to move. You see what I'm saying? Or it makes you want to cry because the rhythm of the, you see what I'm saying, makes you feel a certain way. It creates a resonance field. When you hear dana, 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 da 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 da,
Even with
that's Jaws.
Jaws, they used shock as a means to tap into your subconscious so that it embedded that fear frequency.
You see
So that when you hear it, your
the
subconscious
imagery,
is triggered into fear.
the imagery and the sound now go together. So when you hear dana, dana, dun dun, when you hear that particular rhythm, it creates a resonance field of, oh shit, something bad's about to happen. You see what I'm saying? So these are real life examples of how this shit is functioning right now. This isn't pseudoscience. This is G shit. The scoring of the scoring and the musical selection that goes behind a movie is a whole science in itself. They use tones and sounds to invoke certain feelings in you.
They do that in
That's
television shows too. If
all
you
the
pay
time.
close attention, you can hear the frequency changes.
Boom, all the
So
time.
you know something's up.
All the time. When they want you to feel happy, they'll play something upbeat. You see what I'm saying? When they want you to feel sad, they'll play something slow and melancholy. You see what I'm saying? They can control your feelings through sounds. And of course, if everything's just a vibration, then all of your emotions correspond to words because all of your emotions are just energy in motion, which means they're vibrating at a specific frequency through the medium, which means they all have a sound, which means they're all connected to a word per se, I should say, right? So once again, rhyming produces a rhythm. Sasakem Sahu, me and the gods is coming through, building altars and $1,000,000 homes. I feel the ancestors in my bones. Now I'm neo hacking genetic code. You can almost hear the beat even though I'm not using one. The rhyming produces the rhythm, and it is the coherent rhythm that produces a strong resonance field of energy, and it is that resonance field that allows for the manifestation of the desired intent. So when you hear dana 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 dana, the desired intention is to put you into a state of fear so that way they can shock you. You see what I'm saying? So that way they can scare you. You already know something bad is gonna happen, so you're already ready to fucking jump. That's what it's all about. That's what they're trying to do. So understand that this is not just me making up some bullshit. This is real shit that they're already doing right now. You just don't know the science behind it, and thus you're not able to use it to your own best benefit. Here's me decoding it for you. All right. Another aspect, another important aspect of spell creation is that of symbolism, because that directly interacts with the subconscious mind, and figurative language. As I've spoken about many times, the best way to communicate with the subconscious, unconscious mind, aka the waters of chaos, because if it's subconscious and unconscious, it forms the foundation of the reality that you consciously exist in. All right. So that would be the quantum string field that creates all of the matter and force fields and particles that we are made up of. All right. So, as I've spoken about many times, The best way to communicate with the subconscious, unconscious mind, aka the waters of chaos, is by using symbols. Once again, if the wording of the spell does not clearly express the image of intention you are trying to manifest, the spell won't be able to penetrate the subconscious, unconscious mind. If the spell cannot penetrate these regions of the psyche, then the base programming that creates your conscious experience cannot and will not be reprogrammed to align you with your desired outcome. Once again, from darkness comes light. That means that all of your conscious reality is based on your subconscious, unconscious reality. So if your spell cannot penetrate into your subconscious mind, it will not work. You will not be able to reprogram those quantum threads to weave themselves into a new pattern that's going to manifest the desired outcome. All right. Therefore, the many aspects of figurative language, which are including but not limited to similes, metaphors, personification, imagery, metonymy, etc., are beautiful tools that can be used to clearly express abstract concept thoughts and ideas that are too difficult to convey literally. You see what I'm saying? Now, if you just say, I want money, I mean, sure, that could work as a spell, but it's not very creative. It's not very symbolic. So it's not going to directly communicate to your subconscious mind. It's going to become a conscious entity. So you're always going to end up saying, I want money, I want money, I want money. But if you make it symbolic in that level and you compare, um, yo, let's say they say money doesn't grow on trees, but my abundance is green like the leaves. You see, you say some shit like that, you'll see a money tree in your head. And that image will plant itself in your subconscious mind as a seed. That seed will then take root in your subconscious and begin to manifest itself into your conscious reality. When you just say, I want money, that doesn't invoke anything. That doesn't really create an image except a stack of money, which really isn't going to do shit. You have to give that symbolic essence to it in order for it to really begin to resonate. Resonance is what creates the different notes that create the different particles and force fields. You want the spell to resonate with your subconscious mind so that way it can create what you want. All right. So, figurative language, similes, metaphors, personification, imagery, metonymy, allusions, um, hyperboles, all of that are the tools, beautiful tools at that, for clearly expressing abstract concepts, right brain concepts that are a little bit too difficult to convey literally or in a left brain fashion. In a fashion, you see what I'm saying? In a real organized, it's not going to do it because the part of yourself that you're trying to tap into is not literal. The subconscious mind is not a literal space. You see what I'm saying? It's not a rational space. So you want to really use that understanding to your benefit and use symbolic, figurative language as a way to really deal with getting that spell deeply rooted into your subconscious mind. All right. So, due to the aforementioned reasons, it is my personal belief and the personal belief of your goddamn ancestors who was doing it too. It is my personal belief that the best spells are based on poetry and music. And when I say music, I'm specifically talking about singing. You see what I'm saying? Just because of the fact that vocal cords, like I said earlier, you know what I'm saying? All of that. All right. So poetry and music are the best way to get off a spell. You see what I'm saying? Poetry is the only medium of expression that combines most of the necessary elements of a spell, including precise word choice, symbolism, rhythm, and figurative language. All right? Poetry is one of the only mediums that combines all of that. It was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine. Salt and pepper and heavy D up in my limousine. Every Saturday, rap attack, Mr. Magic Molly Mall. I let the tape rock to the tape pop. That creates a whole image in your head, and that's what allows that song to actually embed itself in your subconscious and become something that you remember like that. As soon as someone says, it was all a dream, you can complete the whole rest of the damn verse because the symbolism and the rhythm and the figurative nature of it and the precise word choice is what got that shit to really stick into your subconscious mind and become a part of your essence. The words from Biggie's mouth, the vapor from his mouth has weaved itself into your fabric of reality. This is why niggas screaming Molly Percocet, whew, mask off, fuck it, mask off, is programming you to want to do those things.
Yeah,
It's definitely doing
it's
that.
definitely taking the mask off for your brain. It's
It's take,
penetrating.
all right, because
It's
boom,
going
what's
straight
the
past your
mask?
conscious
It's the
mind
persona, it's your conscious mind.
and going straight to your
And
subconscious.
he's literally taking the mask off of you,
Yeah.
your persona, your conscious mind. He's removing that and directly implanting something into your subconscious mind. The desire to want to do Molly Percocet, Big Pharma Percocet, Molly, the precise word choice. Because if you didn't know that the persona was an aspect of the conscious mind, but that the persona is a mask or a character played by an actor, you would never know that he's literally saying, hey, yo, I'm shutting down your conscious mind and implanting the desire to do drugs into your subconscious mind. You would never figure that out. Precise word choice. Mask off. Fuck it, mask off. If that nigga was to say, hey, I'm going to shut down your conscious mind,
Not as
then make
catchy.
you want to do some drugs. It's not as catchy.
I mean, we're gonna get to that point in a second.
That's where it's really going to end up going. But
But yeah,
ultimately, you see what I'm saying? It's the fact that it's the precise word choice, the figurative language, mask off. Fuck it, mask off. Figuratively speaking, what he's saying is, I'm shutting down your ego. I'm shutting down that barrier to your subconscious mind, and I'm directly implanting the seed now. This is why poetry, rap, and music are so important when it comes to spells. This is why a lot of mantras that come out, you have to sing them low key. Trayambakaya jamahe sugandhim pushtivardhanam murvarukhagmiva bandhanam mrityor mokshiyamamritat. You have to sing these things. Om Shri Mahalakshmi. Om. It's all singing. You have to use the proper intonation. All right. So poetry is one of the only mediums that combines precise word. Brain will go through periods of suspended disbelief where the ego will shut itself down so that way you can enjoy the creative process going on of you instead of questioning it. Right? They know what it is that's going on. They know how to bypass your conscious mind and directly implant things into your subconscious mind. What I'm teaching you right now is how to bypass your own conscious mind using the words and the spells in order to directly implant the seeds of thoughts and the seeds of actions and the seeds of ideas into your mind so that way they can begin to directly manifest as a part of your physical reality. When the ancestor said Sasakem Sahu, Sasakem Sahu, what they were trying to do was reanimate a body. The Sahu is a mummy. They're trying to reanimate a mummy. Sekhem is the power, the animating force. Sasakem Sahu means I'm trying to bring back the animating force into this dead body. Those are the words that Aset had to use in order to resurrect the dead Asar after pulling all his pieces back together. All right. So I guess the next part that we have to really explain is like, well, what's the proper way to go about creating a spell in terms of like, you know what I'm saying, sitting down and blah, 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 and all that. All right. Of course, you're going to want to really, like I said, you're going to want to sit down, quiet space. You see what I'm saying? You definitely want to cleanse the area you're in of any thought forms and shit. You don't want them to be fucking up the resonance field. All right. You have to first set the resonance field of what you want. All right. This is why I said it's very important to really utilize that throat chakra, solfeggio frequency, and throat chakra meditations prior to doing a spell so that way you can truly open up your full creative essence prior to going into the creative act itself. All right. So you definitely want to set the space to write the spell. You see what I'm saying? The different mediums that you're going to use to create the spell, whether it be a pen or a pencil or blood on that level. If you want to use like different types of blood ink that they do sell at different botanicas, like bat's blood ink and dragon's blood ink and shit like that. You can use that. For the ladies, you can definitely use your menstrual blood if you can to create spells and shit. You can if you want to do that. You can definitely do that. That's actually probably one of the most powerful ways to get about it.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Get the
So
life-giving blood.
and give life to something that boom. You see what I'm saying? Definitely important on that level. Um, Crystals and different objects that can hold the energy would be good. Metallic objects are usually best. Objects from nature are usually best, which is why wands are usually made of wood and crystals. Obviously, the metals of the earth are gonna be exceptionally good at this because metals on their own have that attractive magnetic. Not all metals are magnetic, but all metals do have. Yeah, hematite's a great way to really ground in the energy. You know what I'm saying? You definitely want to have all of your material bases there. The paper is an important part of it. You see what I'm saying? Because that's the blank canvas. That itself is literally another form of the quantum field. There's literally pure potential on that page. Anything could manifest or be manifested onto that page. You see what I'm saying? So that would be a representation of the quantum field that you're using in order to create the spell. That would be a part of the material base. You see what I'm saying? You definitely want to really first, before you even write the shit, think about the imagery of what it is that you're trying to manifest. Don't just think about, oh, money. Nah, think about what it is that you're going to do with the money. Think about what it is that you're going to experience when you have the abundance that you want. Make that a part of the spell. Really paint that picture for yourself. Paint that picture in your subconscious mind and then express it consciously with your words. You see what I'm saying? Using the rhythm and the symbolism and the figurative language and the proper word choice. All right? So you really want to think about the image of what it is that you want to create and let that be the basis of your intention. All right? Then from there, that's when you begin to pick the words. You know what I'm saying? Of course, don't be afraid to, you know what I'm saying, rewrite spells. Don't think that you have to get the spell, the wording of the spell right on the first try. It may take you a couple times. You may have to erase and try again. You see what I'm saying? Like, all right, maybe I wanted to do an abundance thing and originally I wanted to go with the imagery of a tree. You see what I'm saying? But then as I'm writing it, I'm finding it hard to really find the right words to encapsulate what it is that I want. So I'd have to start all over or scrap that particular line of word choice and go for something that might be a little bit easier. So maybe now I'm thinking about the money as like a stream of abundance. You see what I'm saying? Thinking of it like a flood.
Right.
And maybe that might be an easier
And
way.
there's so many different visuals for money.
So many
Like,
different
even just
visuals.
the color gold.
Boom. We don't even have to use the color gold on the, I mean, not the color green on that level to represent abundance.
If you're
Gold
doing
is
like
another
candle magic, orange is associated
with
with abundance.
with the creative essence that actually leads
They
to
talk about that. We have a PDF in our PDF list that talks about candles, altars, and all that stuff. And it's
actually
really great with the colors.
I did reference the Big Little Book of Magic by DJ Conway as one of the as one of the reference materials. So that is in there as well. So you definitely wanna
Yeah, don't like just
don't limit
think
yourself
and
to
just
one.
don't
Yeah,
picture in cash, you know.
yeah, that's not gonna do it. Really get creative with how you're gonna try to express this thought.
I would say think about what you want more than just the money because nine
Yeah,
times out of 10, it's not the money that you need to get that. You know, if
yeah,
you know someone
you can get
that'll
that
get you
thing
there.
too. It's more so about the particular experiences that you're trying to have
Yeah.
once you do have the abundance the right way that you want it. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So utilize that aspect of your imagination to really begin to see what it is that you want to create and then find the words that match with it. God had to think about, all right, everything's dark. I kind of need something that's not dark in order to make the thing that I want to make. So let me think about that first. All right, opposite of this would be this thing. No, no. All right, now I know what. Now I know what I'm trying to create. What's the word for this though? Light. Ah, there we go. Let there be light. Boom, and then light appears because he thought about it, or she, it thought about it, and then found the correct wording, the correct verbiage to use, and then they produced that vibration, which then affected the medium of these quantum strings. It animated the fabric, caused it to move at a specific resonance point, which then created a specific force field called light, which is really just electromagnetic radiation. All right. So definitely do that. You want to pick the proper word choice. You definitely want to sit down, think about the imagery, then come up with the words that match. You see what I'm saying? Don't be literal. Be figurative about it. Be symbolic about it. That's what's ultimately going to really affect your subconscious mind. You see what I'm saying? That's why it's easier to remember songs than it is to remember the goddamn book you just read
The
on.
Constitution.
You see what I'm saying? The
Yeah.
Constitution is hella literal. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really hard to remember all the words in that, but it's real easy to remember what Biggie said. You see what I'm saying? It's real easy to remember what Lil Yachty said because it was more figurative, it was more symbolic. You see what I'm saying? So understand you don't have to be literal, be figurative. Figurative is better because it's going to affect your subconscious mind a little bit deeper. All right? You want to write these words down. For me, I would say that before you actually the first I should say the first draft of the spell should be in pencil so that way you can erase and you can change it, you can change the threads of energy that go into it, right? That final draft of the spell should be written in ink so that way it's permanent. You can't erase ink, you can't change. Once it's written, it's locked in. You see what I'm saying? Red ink in particular, because red deals with the divine feminine creative essence of the kundalini, right? And of course, it is your subconscious mind that you want to give birth to this energy. The subconscious mind is the divine feminine realm. The divine feminine is directly connected to the color red. Red ink is going to work better.
Red is also the first color that your eyes pick up on the light spectrum.
Boom. You see what I'm
So
saying?
it's in.
Water, the creative force that we associate with water and all that shit, water absorbs red first, which is why it's blue. You see what I'm saying? So understand that if we could actually really see water for what it is, water would actually be red. It's because it's absorbing the redder frequencies and reflecting the blue ones that we see it as blue. You see what I'm saying? So understand that red ink in particular, which is why blood is such an amazing thing to use for creating menstrual blood. Don't just be out here cutting yourself and shit. They don't accept that, not anymore at least. They rather deal with the sexual fluids on that regard. So, fellas, your semen can become an important part of creating spells and activating the spell the same way it is for activating sigils and shit, which is really just another form of spell work, turning the words into a symbol that directly impacts the subconscious mind.
It's all the same.
It's all the same thing.
It's different ways to get it.
The spell would just be the spoken or written aspect of it, whereas the sigil would be taking those same words and creating your own personal symbol to directly impact the subconscious mind.
Your own hieroglyph.
Your own hieroglyph. Thank you. Perfect. You see what I'm saying? So the first couple drafts of a spell, you see what I'm saying, should be in pencil until you really have the wording of it locked in, the imagery and the symbolism in it is locked in the way you want it to be. Then once you have that, then you begin to write the spell with the red ink. Of course, you can use different inks. You see what I'm saying? Because of course, different colors represent different energies. Different colors represent different emotions. So if you want to heal anxiety, red would work for a spell that's geared toward healing anxiety. If you want to tap into more sexual energy, you might want to use orange because that's the color that's associated with the chakra that's related to sexuality. If you want to amp up your imagination, you might want to use purple. You see what I'm saying? Because that's the third eye and that's where the imagination lives. You see what I'm saying? So different colors do different things, but of course, the lifeblood of the mother is red. You see what I'm saying? So that's going to be the most potent color that you can use. The Typhonians, which are the pre-dynastic Egyptians, only did spells in red ink. You see what I'm saying? So this is knowledge that is definitely important to understand. Colors represent certain resonance fields of energy that are also going to help you tap into the energy that you're trying to manifest as well. All right. So the first couple drafts are in pencil until you get the wording right, and then the final draft should be in red ink. All right, or whatever color ink that you feel is necessary for getting across, you know what I'm saying, the point of what you're trying to do. All right. From that point there, what you want to do is actually speak the spell. All right. Rhythm is usually denoted to the number three. It usually takes something happening three times before you notice the cycle of it. You see what I'm saying? The first time, it's random. The second time, it's a coincidence. The third time, you know to expect the fourth time because now you've created a rhythm. Third time's the charm. Charms are a part of magic. Three times. So you want to repeat the spell after you've finalized it and you've completed. You want to repeat the spell at least three times. Say it aloud three times. That creates that rhythmic essence. All right. From that point, you can then burn the spell. You see what I'm saying? Or burn the paper that the spell is on, releasing it from its physical form into its spiritual form because we burn it, it turns into ash, right? Which is the primordial creative substance, the chem, the blackness that the ancestors talked about when they named the land Kemet. They were talking about the black fertile land, so that ash would represent that part, but then the smoke would represent the spirit, right? The breath. So returning the breath that you put out into the spell back into the universe, back into the Akash, so that way you can begin to implant it into your subconscious mind, so that way you can breathe it in. So once you burn the spell, breathe in a little bit of that smoke. Take in the spiritual essence of that smoke, all right? In order to take in the essence of the spell, all right? And then from there, you know what I'm saying, you close your ritual, you know what I'm saying? If you have wands or specific metallic objects or material bases that you want to, you know what I'm saying, place the spell into, speak the spell over the object, then burn the spell, do whatever you want. Of course, that is more, this side of it is more so dealing with the ritual of it. And of course, there's a million ways to skin a cat, there's a million ways to conduct a ritual. Do what feels best to you. I've done spells where I've placed the spells in water and let the ink bleed out. You see what I'm saying? And then I went outside and I poured the water on a tree. You see what I'm saying? And I threw away the paper. I threw the paper, you know what I'm saying, somewhere close to the tree or some shit like that. That's a way to get it off. You see what I'm saying? You could bury the spell in the ground. The same, boom, the same way you're trying to bury the intention in your subconscious mind, bury the spell into the earth. You see what I'm saying? I've actually even done spells where I took the piece of paper and I turned it into a paper airplane and I threw it. You see what I'm saying? I let it travel on the wind. You see what I'm saying? There's many ways to get this shit off. Be creative. That's what the throat chakra is all about. The throat chakra is the most important part of the spell. Speaking with authority, but also expressing it creatively. There's many different ways to go about that. So that's what you want to do on that particular ends of it. You see what I'm saying? In order to activate the spell, you do want to ritualize it. You see what I'm saying? One of the most common ways to activate spells is actually speaking it over a candle. You see what I'm saying? Because fire is associated with the creative impulse on that level. Fire is associated with Kundalini. So you want to speak the spell and imagine that spell being brought into your own soul, because that's what the flame of the candle represents, the fire that is within you. You see what I'm saying? That produces the light. So you want to speak that spell into the fire, knowing that you're speaking it into your own internal flame, and then that light is going to be projected into the world outside of you, all right? So that's definitely how you're going to do that. Of course, there's the tantric way of doing it. You can write the spell down, recite it three times, then masturbate to it. You see what I'm saying? You can chant the spell in your head while you're doing the sexual act. You can be masturbating, you can be with a partner. It doesn't really matter as long as you're using that sexual essence to activate it. You see what I'm saying? This is how we give life to other physical creatures, through the sexual essence. So it more than likely is going to be the way that you're going to give life to your etheric creatures, your etheric entities and shit like that. It's how you're going to give life to the spiritual seed that's contained within those words. All right. So you definitely can do that. Sigils would be another way to activate the spell. You see what I'm saying? Taking those words and breaking them down into a condensed symbol, right? Because ultimately the words are the conscious aspect of the subconscious intent. Once you turn it into a symbol, you're no longer dealing with the same conscious energy. It's just a symbol now. It doesn't represent words anymore. It represents an idea, which is what art is. It's usually just ideas put on a canvas, emotions put on a canvas. You see what I'm saying? So sigils are a great way to activate the spell on another level. But of course, main way would be speaking it 3 times, creating that rhythm, right? The third time is the charm. So you definitely want to speak it with hella authority on that third time. Speak it with hella power, speak it with hella conviction that third time you say it. And that's what's going to set and ground that energy. You see what I'm saying? Boom. So that's it. Any questions that you could think of that people might ask that would be applicable to nah? All right.
Pretty clear. You touched on
Yeah, I
everything.
think I touched on everything. So 1 time for my niggas, 2 times for my niggas. It's your main man, Daddy Shiva. And this is how you create a spell, ya bish.